thank you for doing this for me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're sure welcome.
How long have you been a docent?
I think it's right around 25 years.
Oh my gosh. So the 390th Memorial Museum has been around at the Pima Air and Space Museum since 1987.
That's right. Yeah.
And we are on the grounds of the Pima Air and Space Museum, and so we are open. We are here 10 to 2 right now.
That's what our hours are now.
Yeah, 10 to 2 for COVID hours, and then once we are able to, we will be open 10 to 4. Our museum is free, and people are able to come in to see the 390th Memorial Museum for free. There is a ticket fee for Pima Air and Space. So I think the best part about having you as a docent is you actually flew in the 390th.
I did.
So tell me about it. You were 20. Go, you take it, Richard.
Yeah, I trained up in the state of Washington after I graduated from pilot school, and they called it combat crew training, and we formed the combat crews, the 10-man crews, and then we trained together there for a couple months, and then 35 crews of us trained together. We all went overseas together in November of 1943, and we all went to the 390th Bomb Group, 35 crews of us, to fill the holes that they had and build up their force. 35 crews, since they're all in one place, I can find out what happened to them. Here's the result. 35 crews, 12 and a half finished their missions and got to go home.
Wow.
About 1 out of 3. That meant that the other 2/3 were in Germany, either dead or prisoner.
Holy cow.
So out of 35 crews, 350 guys, 12 and a half crews finished their missions. Now I also took our POW numbers and our killed numbers and put those together, and out of every 100 that went down, 47 were killed and 53 were taken prisoner. So that just gives you a picture of what happened to our 35 crews. My crew, the crew that I trained with and went over with,
Keep going.
they were shot down on their first mission. Lucky me, I got sick and I was in the hospital back in England, so I didn't get shot down with them.
Yeah.
They were shot down on the 16th of December of 1943. I didn't fly my first mission. I got out of the hospital on Christmas Eve, and I flew my first mission on the 30th of December 1943, and I was 20 years old. I was the co-pilot. I wasn't a pilot right then.
Okay.
After I became 21, I got checked out as first pilot.
How many guys were on your crew?
10 guys.
10 guys on the crew.
Total.
And so 10 guys were in the B-17
Yeah.
at all times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Later in the war, they cut down to 9. They took one waist gunner out.
Okay.
But at the time I was flying, it was a 10-man crew.
Okay.
It was 10 guys. We had 12 50 caliber machine guns on that airplane.
Wow.
Everybody had guns but the 2 pilots and the radio operator.
Wow. And so behind you is the plane, the B-17,
Yeah.
that we have here at the museum.
Uh-huh.
And this one that we have here is called I'll Be Around.
That was
What-
named after one of ours that actually flew combat over there.
Okay.
But this one was never in combat.
And so the story of I'll Be Around is that mission didn't go very well, right? They were lost.
The story's up on the wall over here about I'll Be Around, and I believe it was, I think all 10 were killed. I'm
Yeah.
not certain.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's rather dramatic to look at all of our nose art pictures up here and see how many people were killed when the airplane went down.
So we have an exhibit here at the museum that is called the Nose Art exhibit, and it touches on all of the different artwork that was on the nose of the B-17 planes. And so that's just one of the exhibits that we have that people can come and see, and we have a fun video about some of the nose art also. So one of your planes, did you have any fun nose art that...
No.
Nothing cool.
After my crew was shot down, we had the Royal Flush assigned to us when I got there. And we thought how lucky. The first night we were there, we went over to the club. And there was a big celebration going on. Royal and his crew had just finished 25 missions and they were going home. Now, we got that airplane and we thought, how lucky. And
wow.
My crew went out and got shot down in it on their first mission.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow. That I don't know if that was lucky.
No, it wasn't lucky for us.
What missions, what countries were missions flown over? Someone wants to know.
Well, it was all Germany then. Mm-hmm. Although the map might call it France, Holland, Belgium, Denmark, and on the other side, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Austria. All of that was under German control.
Okay.
So to us, it was all enemy territory. Now we bombed many targets in the country of Germany, where they had a lot of their manufacturing, airplanes, and all kind of war materials. We bombed the factories a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of those were our targets. We did bomb airfields occasionally, but mostly targets were industrial targets.
Okay.
At the time I was there. I did bomb a couple of V-1 rocket sites right on the coast of France, and that was a real easy trip.
Wow. Frank Leek in Holland is telling you thank you.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, we get, in the normal times when the people can travel.
Prior to COVID, yes.
We get a lot of visitors from Holland.
Oh, really?
And they're wonderful people. Our group, after I left, near the end of the war, did a food drop mission in Holland and dropped food to the starving people.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that. So why did you have to do a food drop?
They were just starving, and they were not allowed, if they went out into the farm areas to get food and came back in on their bicycles or walking, the Germans confiscated a lot of the food, so they were starving in the area around Amsterdam. So our group dropped food in there. They were one of the groups that dropped food.
Okay.
That was near the end of the war.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was gone long before that.
Oh, you were?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But it was one of the missions that the 390th did?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about one of your great stories for missions. I know you have a lot. You were there from the age of 20. And then how old were you when you...
Oh, just 21. I was only there 7 months.
Okay.
Now, when we arrived there, we were told 25 missions and you can go home.
Okay.
So let me tell you about my 28th mission.
Yes, tell me about number 28 after only having to do 25.
Yeah, they tacked 3 more onto me. So number 28 was to bomb a Messerschmitt factory located in Augsburg, Germany. Mm-hmm. And the date was the 13th of April, 1944. I thought, many years later when I thought about this thing, I wondered if it was Friday the 13th,
Yeah.
But it was not. Anyhow, so we got to the target. Our formation was 21 airplanes at that time, mm-hmm. 21 B-17s in a formation of 7 in the lead squadron, 7 in the low squadron, and 7 in the high squadron. So 21 of us started, and there were groups ahead of us and groups behind us bombing the same target. So when we got to the target and turned onto the bomb run, now Augsburg is way down in southeast Germany, so it was a long trip down there. When we got to the target and started on the bomb run, the flak was intense. Flak was the German anti-aircraft fire.
Okay.
And so it was intense, and we took a lot of damage at that point. 3 of our airplanes went down right over the target. We lost 3 of the 21 right over the target. All of us took some damage. As we turned away from the target after the bomb run, my little ball turret gunner underneath the airplane, he called in and said, we got oil running off the wing behind number 1 engine. So we got an oil leak in number 1. And I asked him, how fast was it running? Was it a gusher or a steady stream or what? He said, it's a steady stream, but it's not gushing. I said, okay. So I kept that engine running, and that allowed me to stay in formation as we headed home. Now there are only 18 of us heading back. So 18 of us headed home. As we were approaching the edge of Belgium, there was a big towering storm ahead of us, and you cannot take a formation into a storm. So we diverted around it, and we went directly over a German airfield. It was not a good place to be because the flak there was intense and very accurate. So the 18 of us all took damage at that point. As we left that area, my ball turret gunner called in, number 2 and number 3 engine are gushing oil. So now I knew I'd been hit in a vital place, either an oil line or something vital in those engines, number 2 and 3. So we lost. I got the flight engineer out of the top turret and had him stand right beside me, and between the 2 pilots. I said, you watch those engine oil pressures, and if any of them start to drop off, hit the feather button right away to feather the prop. Well, when he hit that button, what it was a switch that started a pump in the bottom of the engine oil tank and pumped oil under high pressure to the prop dome and made the prop blades go to the feathered position, which was, then I could shut that engine down and the prop would sit still. So about 4 or 5 minutes beyond that airfield where we took that damage, an arm came over my shoulder and hit number 2 feather button, and the prop feathered, and I shut it down. I neglected to mention that number 2 engine is where we got the little bit of warm air to defrost our windshield.
Oh my gosh.
So as soon as I feathered that engine, that warm air stopped. Our windshield frosted over immediately. And it got very cold in the cockpit.
Someone wanted to know, on this particular mission, did your crew toss equipment to lighten the load?
No.
No. Okay.
No, we didn't have to do that.
Okay.
Now at this point, we're on 3 engines, and number 3 is leaking oil violently, and number 1 is still leaking oil all the way from the target's been leaking. So in about 4 or 5 more minutes, the arm came over my shoulder and hit number 3 feather button, and it was too late. We had lost too much engine oil. There was not enough left to feather the prop.
Ugh.
So now I had a windmilling prop.
And that means, windmilling prop means?
Water drag.
Okay.
The prop was turning the engine over. The pistons were going in and out without oil.
Oh.
Within just a couple of minutes, that engine was red hot and it stopped. It seized because of no oil. But the prop was going with such force that it tore the reduction gears all apart, and it was out there spinning all by itself, now not even connected to the engine anymore. So I had a lot of drag on that side, on my right side, from that spinning prop. So here we are in enemy territory. Number one's been leaking oil all the way from the target, but still running. Number two is feathered and shut down. Number three is windmilling. I shut the engine off. I got all the fuel and everything to the engine. Mm-hmm. Number four was a good engine. So we're in, we're all by ourselves, of course. I had to leave the formation when my windshield frosted up.
Oh, gosh.
So we're all by ourselves in enemy territory, not in very good condition. So I began gradually descending. Fortunately, we were at about 23,000 feet when all of this occurred. So I was gradually descending, headed straight for home. But I was pretty slow with all the problems that I had. Mm-hmm. And I got there a little bit after some of the other airplanes that had more engines than I did. So when I got within sight of our airfield, our procedure was when you got home, if you had wounded on board, you shot a red flare. If you had mechanical difficulties, you shot a green flare. I got within sight of our airfield and it looked as though they were having a Christmas celebration. Red and green flares flying up all over.
Oh my God.
I finally got on the final approach to our longest runway was only 6,300 feet, which is about half of what they are today. Mm-hmm. So I got on the final approach, but because of my condition, I carried a little extra airspeed down the final. So I was going a little faster than normal when I put it on the ground. I got it on the runway and hit the brakes, and there weren't any.
Oh gosh.
The brakes were shut off. Now I'm going down that runway at around a rapid speed, and 6,300 feet is not very much.
Right.
I knew I was going to go off the end unless I did something. So I was still going pretty fast. I got 600 or 700 feet from the end. I ground looped the airplane into the good old English mud.
Oh my gosh.
Thank God for English mud. Out here the ground is so hard I've been rolling for a month. But that stopped the airplane. That airplane, by the way, 25 days later was all repaired and flew a mission and was shot down.
Where were the planes repaired?
Right there.
Okay.
Yeah. He put 2 new engines on it and fixed the patch all
In
over.
England?
In England.
Right.
Right
Okay.
at our base.
Okay.
They flew a mission, was shot down, 8 were killed, and 2 were taken prisoner. Well, that was the next mission on the airplane.
Oh my gosh. So someone wanted to know, when you take damage, could you fly with holes in the plane?
Oh, I always flew with holes. I never got home without.
I love...
You know, we were always in flat, and I always had some holes. Sometimes just a few. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a lot.
What was the safest place on the plane, do you think? I mean, people say, you know, up top or down below. What do you think? As a gunner, what was the safest place? If there is such a thing?
No, I don't. I found out a little statistic some years ago that they did some research on who was killed the most by position.
Yes.
And it was the pilot.
Really?
Now, if I had known that then, I would have been a little bit more scared than I was.
Yes.
But I was scared enough.
Yes. Well, when you're 20, it's a different level of scared. Rebecca Key would like to say she's so proud of you, Dad.
Oh, that's my daughter back in Memphis.
His granddaughter said
Yes.
something too.
Oh, your granddaughter
I don't have a name though.
said she's proud of you too. Can you talk about how weather played a role in that mission or any mission?
In all of them, weather played a role. We were bombing daylight precision bombing is what it was called. Now we had the Norden bomb site, so we had to see our target in order to bomb effectively. So weather was critical in the continent. So we would prepare for a mission, and then sometimes it would be scrubbed because weather in the continent was not suitable. So, and sometimes we got there and the weather wasn't all that great. I tried to bomb targets in Poland 3 times. There was a Messerschmitt factory in Poland that we tried to bomb. And that was a long way from England to Poland. And I tried 3 times. All 3 times we ran into weather when we got into Poland and could not bomb that target. We turned around and bombed a secondary target in Germany. So that aircraft factory was still producing airplanes when the war was over.
Yeah. Did you remain in contact with your crew years after the war?
No, not the entire crew. They were shot down, my crew.
Oh.
And the one of my second crew and my third crew, I had lost contact with most of them. Mm-hmm. Now we did the bombardier on my second crew. Well, I met him at a reunion, and so we became close again.
Yeah.
And recently, the father of I was co-pilot on that second crew. The father of the pilot found out that I was here and came over and visited us.
Oh, that's great.
The pilots did.
Tom Adrango from Argentina says hello, and he worked with you the last 2 years.
Oh yes, he was here at FEMA and came in every Thursday.
That's great. So we've talked about weather. Which squadron were you in?
I was in the 569.
Okay.
And there were 4 combat squadrons in a group. What we called a group then is now called a wing. In our day, 3 groups were in a wing. So we had the 100th and the 95th in our wing.
Okay. Someone wanted to know that how hard was it to hit targets without laser guided help?
Well,
we
didn't have any lasers. But the Norden bomb sight was an excellent instrument. However, it could not figure out what the winds were between us and the ground.
Yes.
Now we were up at 23,000, and the bombardier and the lead airplane, when he released, we all released. So all 21 of us bombed at the same time. But when he released his bombs, his bomb sight had said they're going to land right on the target. However, on the way down, the winds affected those bombs, so they may all drift off to one side or the other. But right behind us was another group bombing the same target. So they observed where our bombs hit and they corrected for it.
Wow.
So it was just a matter of dropping tons and tons of bombs
and
to get that
and
target.
getting it. Yeah. What was the role of the defensive German aircraft? And did you have defensive fighter escorts?
At times we saw friendly airplanes. At times we saw nothing but the other kind, the enemy. But they were trying to shoot us down. And on one mission that I was on, they estimated that our formation, that is the entire formation of the 8th Air Force, was attacked by 600 enemy fighters on our way in and our way out.
Oh my gosh.
And we lost 69 heavy bombers that day. 69.
69 in one day.
One day.
And there was 10 men on each of those planes.
Yes.
Wow. What was the longest flight bomb run you did?
11 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh, my
11 hours and 20 And that's a long time in that airplane.
Well, in any airplane. Were you able to maintain your position information with engine problems?
No, not then, on that last mission. But other times, yes, with problems. Now, when I lost an engine, sometimes I had to leave the formation. That number 2 engine gave us the little warm air for our defroster.
Right.
I lost that 3 times. So we frosted up 3 times and had to leave the formation. All 3 times we were on our way home. We had already dropped our bombs and we were on our way home when I lost that engine.
So how did you see if your windows were frosted up?
Oh, I didn't need to see to fly the airplane, but I had to get out of the formation because I couldn't see to do that.
Yes. Does it take all 4 engines to stay in formation?
No, if I had one feathered, if the prop is feathered and shut down, there was very little drag there. I could probably stay in formation with 3.
Okay.
But it was tougher.
Yeah.
Much tougher.
Is there anything you miss from your from then, that time of your life?
I don't miss being shot at all.
Yeah. You don't? That's so weird. What was your favorite place to visit when on leave from the base?
Oh.
A London pub, I imagine.
Well, yeah, we went to London as often as we could. It was about a 2-hour train ride from where we were stationed. So we'd hop on the train and go to London. The little town that was not too far from us, it was about 20 miles away, was Ipswich, and it was larger than the little village near our base, but we'd go to Ipswich occasionally when we could get a break. Oh, there was a perimeter pub. The perimeter of the base was barbed wire, It was to keep people from wandering in. There was a hole in the fence.
Oh gosh.
It was behind some of the hard stands where the airplanes were parked, and we knew where the hole was. We'd ride our bikes back there, park them, go through the hole, and there was a pub about half a mile away. We'd walk over to the pub. The perimeter pub, we called it, because it was near the perimeter of the base.
That's hilarious.
It was a nice place to go.
Were you briefed on what to do with the bomb site if you went down?
Yes, not every airplane had a bomb site. We all bombed when the lead airplane of the lead squadron bombed. Now, there were about 6 bomb sites located throughout the formation so that if he were shot down, somebody could take over that had a bomb site and take us on the bomb run. So not every airplane had a bomb site on it. There were instructions on how to destroy the bomb site if you went down. But if that airplane was on fire and going down, nobody worried about it because the airplane was going to crash and destroy the bomb site.
How many German fighters did your crew shoot down in the 28th mission?
I don't remember. I know they shot a lot. And we had some swastikas on the side of some of the airplanes that I flew, but I don't remember how many our crew got credit for. I flew 7 different B-17s on combat missions. One of them 7 times, one 14 times, and the others once or twice. All of the 7 were destroyed after I flew them.
Wow.
How lucky can you get?
Have you bought a lottery ticket lately? What was your navigation equipment?
Well, we had a celestial which we never used on a bomb run. And there was LORAN, which is long-range navigational equipment. And it was pretty primitive in those days. Pilotage was the system of navigating that got us there most of the time. Pilotage means you look at the ground and you look at your map and figure out where you are on the map and then follow yourself along the course till you get to the target.
Wow. Someone in the UK says, thanks for our freedom.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. It was not a fun job, but somebody had to do it.
Somebody had to do it. Which bomber that you flew was your favorite?
Out of the bombers, the B-17 was my favorite. I did fly some that were quite a bit faster later.
Yeah.
I flew the B-47, which had 6 jet engines. I flew the B-57, which was 2, and those are the only 2 jet bombers that I flew. But my last combat was in an F-4 Phantom in Vietnam, and that was also a bomber. It was a fighter, but we could carry bombs.
Wow.
And deliver them very accurately with that thing.
Yes. What are some of your happiest memories from your time in England?
Well, London was a lot of fun. I went there quite a few times. And on the base, there wasn't much happy time on the base. As I remember, we had a dance and invited local girls to come. So we had a dance with, we had a bunch of people came to the dance.
How did
It was in one of the hangars.
How did you meet your younger woman, your current younger woman?
My younger girlfriend?
Your younger girlfriend.
I'm 97. She is going to be 93 this month.
Wow.
So she's just a kid.
She is. Robbing the cradle, Richard.
Friends of ours introduced us. We had both lost our spouse just before that, a year or so. And so friends of ours introduced us, thought we would enjoy each other, and we have.
That's awesome. What were the challenges with planes at 3 different altitudes on bomb runs?
You mean, I'm sure he's talking about the altitudes of the squadrons, the 3 squadrons. One was high and one was low. We were not that much separated, so there wasn't any problem with that. We all could drop at the same time.
Okay. Were you RAF Framlingham, sir? I don't know.
Royal Air Force in Framlingham.
No, it was not RAF. That's Royal Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it was a base built for the U.S. Air Force.
Okay, and it's still there?
No.
Okay.
It is not a base anymore. It's back to a farm. There are some buildings still there that were part of our base. They're using them for farm buildings.
Okay.
There is a museum there that is our old control tower and adjacent buildings. And it is the Parham Air Museum. And I get emails from them. So we cooperate with them. Our museum cooperates with them. And I know the people who owned the farm. I have met them many years later. It was in their family for years. And they said the taxes got too high, so he sold us.
So from an aviation Eagle Scout, they said, quite the range of aircraft flown. That's awesome. Thank you for your service.
I flew 43 different types of airplanes in my military career.
That's impressive. Kevin Drain says, what a cool story.
Hello, Kevin. I know.
How many days off did you have after every mission?
That varied a lot. The weather in the continent was so critical to our missions. For example, my last 4 missions were 4 consecutive days.
Wow.
And that was exhausting. And then we had one week in February of 1944. There's a book written about it called The Big Week. And it is every day in 7 days we were alerted, and they got us up in the middle of the night. You know, they got us up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. 7 days in a row. And we were scheduled to go on a mission all 7 days. 3 of them were scrubbed because of weather. 4 of those 7 days we flew.
Wow.
So 4 days out of a week that time.
Speaking of books, tell me about your book.
Oh, I wrote a book called My Wars, and it's available from the publisher, which is lulu.com, and Amazon has it. And it's just stories of things that happened to me during several wars that I was involved in. I was on active duty during the Korean War, but I was lucky I had an assignment to Alaska. So they weren't shooting at me up there. I kind of like that.
Yes, yes. So people can come to the museum and purchase it.
Yes, and get it signed by the author.
And get it signed by the author on Thursdays.
Yes, I'm here every Thursday.
Richard is here on Thursdays.
Or we could mail it as well.
And you can contact the museum if people want to purchase the book, and
Yes.
we will also mail it out.
Yes, we'll mail it to them, and I'll personalize it, make it to whomever they wish, and sign up for it.
Very cool. When was the last time you were flying a B-17, and how many B-17s are still flying?
There are 9, to my knowledge, that are still flying. I flew one about 4 years ago for about 15 minutes over Tucson. And then about, I guess it's getting close to 10 years ago, I flew one for 45 minutes from here to, we were headed up to Phoenix.
Very cool. Very cool. And so the B-17 for you holds a special place, and that's why you chose to be a docent here?
Well, it's the 390th bomb group that I walked into our entryway used to be down here in the olden days, and the desk was right there. I walked into this thing in 1987, just after it had opened. And I looked up at the tail of that airplane and I said, well, I'll be darned. That was the outfit I was in World War II. Well, the guy that was behind the desk said, what's your name? And I told him. And he got out the book and looked. He said, oh, yeah, here you are. And he said, give me $30 and you're a member of the foundation and the Veterans Association. That was 30-some years ago.
Yeah.
And then I started working here early 90s.
Well, you are a treasure of all treasures for us here in Tucson. We also have a collection, one of the largest collections of bomber jackets that we are trying to get restored. And so we are looking for people to help us with that. Do you still have your bomber jacket?
No, the cuffs, the cuffs and the bottom wore out, and I tossed it in the trash.
Richard, dang it. Someone asked, have you ever met any of the fighter pilots who escorted your bombers?
No, I have not. I met a German anti-aircraft gunner who shot at me.
Oh, really? You met him? What do you have to say?
Well, this was down in Green Valley where I live, and I was invited to go to lunch at the country club on a Tuesday. They said, there's a group of us that go every Tuesday. Would you like to join us? I said, yeah, that'd be fun. So I got there. There were 7 other guys. One of them had a pretty serious accent. And I said, where are you from? He said, Germany. And I said, well, what city? He said, Berlin. I said, oh, I bombed there a couple of times. He said, well, let me tell you what I did. He was taken out of school when he was 15 years old and drafted into the Army and put on the anti-aircraft guns around the edge of Berlin. I said, now wait a minute, let's pin this down. I was there on the first full daylight raid on Berlin, the 6th of March of 1944. Were you shooting the guns that day? He said, yeah, I sure was.
Oh.
I said, well, I was back on the 9th. Were you shooting then? Yes, I was.
Wow.
See, we came in the daytime, and he said, now they had been letting them do some school programs during the daytime when the British were bombing at night. He said, now you guys screwed that up. We couldn't go to school in the daytime because you were going to come on.
Wow. Oh, we have another question. How famous was the Memphis Belle during World War II?
We all heard about it. That was not in our group, of course. It was in another group that had been there before our group got there. And that was the first airplane to complete 25 missions, airplane and crew. Now, it was a big deal, to complete 25 missions. It wasn't happening very often. So it was really a great deal. And that crew and the airplane came back to the States and flew around the country on bond tours, getting people to buy war bonds.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more questions. Where is museum located in Tucson? So we are on the Pima Air and Space Museum grounds.
Yes.
And then we are building 8 at Pima Air and Space. So people can come 6,000 East Valencia.
Yeah.
And, yep, Valencia
Major
Road.
road. So it's easy to find, and people come from all over the world to see this museum. Pima Air and Space Museum is the 3rd largest air museum in the whole world.
Wow. Wow.
So it's a great spot to visit.
Yes, definitely. And we are going to have a tail gun section brought in that will be at the museum pretty soon. So it will be something that people can view from up close and be able to look inside the tail gun section. So that will be another exhibit that we'll be bringing in.
I crawled back there once, but I never was there in flight. And I never tried to get into the ball turret. I was 6 feet tall.
Oh my gosh. What was the height requirements to be able to do things?
We had 6 gunners, 6 guys who were pure gunners. So we picked the smallest one, said, you're the ball turret gunner. And I ran into one at one of our reunions that was 5 feet 11, and he was a ball turret gunner.
Oh my gosh.
I said, well, how tall were you back then when you were 18 years old? And he said, I was 5'11". I said, well, how did you get in there? He said, I was young and skinny and flexible.
Holy cow. One more. Were you in the 390th on July 1944 when the July 7th mission was at Messeburg, Germany?
No. July 44, I was back in the States. I had finished my missions in April. I got home in May of 1944. And so I was here before the invasion took place in June. I was back in the States. And when I got back to the States, now I was lucky to survive 28 missions. Got back in the States, and talk about lucky, they sent me to test pilot school. It's my first job after I graduated from test pilot school was at the Boeing factory in Wichita, where they were making B-29. So I was an Army Air Force test pilot on B-29s. I flew 226 B-29s at the Boeing factory, and nobody shot at me any one of those flights. When I retired, my retirement order said total military service, 32 years and 8 days.
Well, thank you, Richard. We appreciate you. We have docents here every day that can speak about the history of the 390th. People can come out and visit. The museum is open 7 days a week. Like I said, 10 to 2.
And I'm here every Thursday.
And Richard is here every Thursday. So come on down and say hi to Richard on Thursdays.